Well, it's now week 2 of the Michael Jackson AEG trial, and things are definitely heating up.
And here with the latest scoop on all that's going on in the trial is entertainment attorney Sean Johnson. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's
Now,
great to be here.
Welcome, Sean.
We've been hearing a lot of juicy stuff coming out of this case, and recently we heard earlier in the show that there are some new developments going on, particularly the one with Wade Robson, who is a choreographer to the stars. He's worked with everyone from Britney Spears to NSYNC, and now he's claiming that Michael Jackson actually molested him, which previously in other trials he said did not happen.
Well, I think that's really interesting because one of the things you notice is that the trial is going to play itself in two ways. It's going to play itself in the court and then, of course, in the court of public perception. And so I think what we've seen last week at the start of the trial, we had one of Michael Jackson's housekeepers talk about how he's a rampant prescription drug user. And all of a sudden this week, we have Wade Robson coming out talking about how he was actually molested. So not that I mean, what a coincidence. That every week there seems to be some kind of new revelation outside of court.
I mean, it's, you know, the old saying is where there's smoke, there's fire. But this seems like a 3-alarm fire right here. What is going on?
Well, the one thing about this situation is that he was under oath in 2 trials saying that Michael Jackson never did anything to him.
So did he commit perjury?
He actually did commit perjury on the surface. But of course, you know, in his claim, he is saying that he talked to a top clinical child psychologist and he has repressed memories. So, I mean, there's this claim in there that maybe he didn't commit perjury because he couldn't remember at the time. And so now we can. Because you got to remember, as late as 2009, he was talking about how much he supported Michael Jackson. I mean, in the 2005 trial, he actually was, I mean, to paraphrase him, it was like, you know, you have to listen to me, you have to believe me, he's not guilty.
Now, does a lawsuit against Michael Jackson's case also come with these new allegations?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see whether he's called or not to testify, because you know, on the one hand, he kind of paints this different picture of Michael Jackson, but you know, a lawyer on either side could kind of take him down based on, you know, what he has already said under oath. So he's not like this credible witness.
But is he also trying to get money out of the Jackson estate?
Well, I think so. I think you talk to Tom Mesereau or Howard Weitzman, who have already come out, and they were Michael Jackson's attorney at the 2005 trial, and they've already come out and said, you know, he's just lying. This is complete. You know, this is complete BS.
It's such a mess. Wade Robson wants money from the Michael Jackson estate. Michael Jackson's estate wants money from AEG. It's just this weird incestuous circle.
Well, I think when you talk about billions of dollars, it kind of gets incestuous. I mean, everybody wants a little piece of that money. I mean, you know, just think, you know, 1%, 0.11%, and you're talking millions of dollars. So I think that everybody is trying to claim it because Michael Jackson's estate is doing so well.
Now, again, how will this affect this trial? Because molestation is not part of this trial. This is just about, you know, whether AEG is responsible for Dr. Conrad Murray. So will they try to use this as fuel for the fire?
Well, I think so, because you got to remember, there's 2 ways to look at this story. One is either Michael Jackson is this powerful entertainer who can hide his secrets, who controls his life, or he's very fragile and weak. And so, you know, that's going to inform the jury's decision. Regardless of whether or not it should, it will probably inform the decision on how they treat this case.
So Michael Jackson's family wants to paint him as somebody who is fragile and weak. AEG wants to paint him as this all-powerful character who is in control of his entire life, including hiring Dr. Conrad Murray.
Exactly. Okay. This was his deepest, darkest secret, and he hid it from everybody, including his family, and that's what they're going to try to portray. And that's why you see even the witnesses in the beginning of the trial, the paramedic who said that when he found Michael Jackson, he looked like he had been in a hospice and he had been sick for a long time. Everything is to paint a picture of him being this, you know, weak-willed. You know, he was in debt. He was under pressure. You know, AEG forced him to do this concert. You know, he was not capable of it. And then, you know, Conrad Murray was just kind of the tip of the iceberg because, you know, he was supposed to take care of Michael Jackson, but he wasn't doing that. He was working for the company.
And he was taking advantage of him, is what they're
arguing.
And
so the idea, the main question of this case is, you know, this locus of control over what Conrad Murray was doing, and it's whether or not that they had a duty of care, and then whether they were negligent in that duty of care.
Now, is it true that only one sibling can be allowed in the courtroom at a time? Why?
Absolutely right.
So if LaToya's there, Janet can't be there.
Exactly. Well,
but they're all scheduled to actually testify throughout the trial, right?
Exactly. Okay. So they're all, number one, they're celebrities.
Okay.
And, you know, I can imagine for the jury seeing 5 or 6 or 7 celebrities is going to influence their decision. Number 2 is they're all on the witness stand, which means that when they hear their brothers and sisters talking, it might influence their testimony.
Oh.
So that's the reason why AEG wanted. the AG actually wanted no siblings, nobody on the witness list in the courtroom. But Michael Jackson's estate's attorneys were able to convince the judge that Catherine needed support and she needed at least one member. Yeah, the only Jackson who's not on the witness list is Marlon.
Now, why is that? Nobody cares about
I guess.
Tito's on the list?
I know. How did Tito get
How did Tito make the list?
Yeah, I guess he was somewhat removed from the goings on in the family.
Right. That is funny. Now, you mentioned earlier that there was the paramedics that had said he looked sick the whole time, but what were some of the coroner's comments on what was actually happening and what happened to Michael Jackson? There were some tattoo allegations made about him tattooing his lips pink or something.
Yes.
Yeah, like,
Tattooed his lips pink, tattooed his eyebrows and hair black, wore wigs. What I mean, all of this, all of the dirty laundry is coming out. I mean, you don't want to hear about this, but you can't really turn away, can you?
It's kind of sad because it feels like you're tearing down an icon. But one of the things that they have to do is if you're going to present him as a fragile individual who was under the influence of Conrad Murray and he was under the pressure of AEG Live, you've got to paint this picture of him as kind of not what you would think a superstar is. And so when you talk about him tattooing his lips or tattooing his scalp, you talk about that he had vitiligo when it was real. You're creating. One of the things he said was the pictures of Michael Jackson. He looked fragile. These are what they need to kind of establish their case that he wasn't in his right mind when and he wasn't being taken care of like Conrad Murray was supposed to take care of him. He wasn't being taken care of that way.
And I know they're bringing in a lot of medical people to consult about this case. So what did the cardiologist say about his health and who will benefit from that information he released in his testimony?
Well, I think this is really important because what they're saying, the coroner's report and the cardiologist are saying is that Michael Jackson's heart was healthy and there were no street drugs on him. Notice it say no street drugs. Notice it say no street
What's
drugs.
the difference?
It's prescription
weed?
drugs.
Okay.
Yeah, weed,
So he
crack.
didn't have cocaine or crack
Yes,
or
yes, in
marijuana
his
in his system.
But they make no mention of prescription drugs, which is important. But one of the things that they did mention is that his.
But why would they even make the distinction? Why does it matter?
Well, I think it matters because you don't want him to be so left of center that there'll be like there's no way that I can give him money because he was on the other side of the law.
So if he was doing street drugs, he would be seen as an addict, opposed to if he was doing prescription drugs, that can be seen as it was the doctor's fault.
No, if he was doing street drugs, it would be seen as illegal because you can't officially buy crack.
Yeah,
But you can get prescription drugs.
And
Is that correct?
And he was known for doctor shopping, so he would go to different doctors for his medication. And I think that informs the perception of him. If you knew that he was doing crack, are you likely to give his family billions and billions of dollars?
Gotcha.
Whereas if he was addicted to painkillers, you might be more likely to do that.
Okay. So what can you tell us about the information that's recently surfaced about Conrad Murray being deep in debt? How will that in any way influence this trial?
Well, there's been about 5 witnesses so far. And one of the detectives said that because he was so much in debt, that he would be willing to break rules, and there was an immediate conflict of interest because there was no guarantee in his contract, so he could be fired at any time. And so the real crux of this case is the email that was sent by the CEO of AEG Live to one of his people saying that, to remind him of who's paying him because this could end at any time. So if you're in $1 million in debt and he says get Michael Jackson to rehearsal, you're going to get Michael Jackson to rehearsal.
By any means necessary.
Exactly. Now, on the other side of that is that Michael Jackson could have fired him at any time as well.
That's true.
But as long as he was getting that medication, they're going to say that that's why he did not fire him.
Exactly.
Wow. So what can we expect next in this case? And, is it looking good for the Jackson family or not?
Well, I think they've done a good job at establishing that perhaps there may have been. What they haven't done is they haven't, to me, established a duty of care. Like there's no real reason where you expect at this point in time that they had control over him. I think we're still going back and forth as to who controlled Conrad Murray. And if he takes the Fifth Amendment like he says he will, if he is called to court, that question is going to be left to the jury to decide. But I think that they've done a really good job at saying, look at some of the things that are going on. Conrad Murray was a cardiologist. He had never dealt with substance abuse before. So why was he hired as the day-to-day doctor for a superstar who was known to have issues with substance abuse and depression? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. He was seen, the paramedic testified that he was fragile and, he had all, thin. And you have this idea that Well, if the paramedics saw it, then certainly the AEG executive saw it as well. So, something
And
wasn't...
Conrad Murray saw it as well.
Exactly. So something wasn't right in Denmark, and nobody was talking about it.
They just wanted the money from the concert, maybe.
The billions and billions of dollars that this case is all about.
Wow.
Oh, Sean, whew.
Yeah.
This one is quite a doozy, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be back a few more times during the
Well,
course of this trial.
Well, I hope so. I hope I get to talk about Diana Ross testifying and Quincy Jones and the rest.
Are they expected to
Well, they were on the
testify as well?
they were on the witness list.
And it's expected to take up to 4 months to settle this case, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure we will see you again soon.
It's great being here.
All right,
Thank you for all the
so
great
much.
information, Sean. Thank you.
So we want to know what you think about this case and all the new developments. Tweet us about it at Arise TV 360.